I'd like to call this regular council meeting of the Town of Lincoln to order and ask that everyone stand for the national anthem. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen of the gallery, we have councillors that are not in attendance this meeting. Councillor Diane Rengima is not with us this evening. Starting on my right is Deputy Mayor Councillor Russell, Councillor John Pachariva, Councillor Tony Brunet. On my left, Councillor Paul McPherson, Councillor Mike Mikulik, Councillor Lynn Timmers, and Councillor Greg Reimer. And we have a variety of staff with us this evening representing those departments that have reports coming forward. Mr. Kirkopoulos is absent this evening, and we have in his place Acting CAO Kathleen Dale, also Director of Planning. There are no proclamations this evening, and council members, I would ask your permission to move up item number 11.3, which is the Planning and Economic Development Committee meetings, and we will be dealing with that first. In the meantime, I have to read the safety notice. In the event of an emergency, please evacuate council chambers to the nearest exit through the chamber doors and obey all instructions given by the clerk. If assistance is required, please see the clerk, and the clerk is seated right in front of me, Ms. Kirkopoulos. Once you have evacuated the building, please gather in the front parking lot outside of Town Hall. Also, advising you that the Town of Lincoln Committee and Council meetings are posted on our YouTube channel. I would like to thank those of you from the public who are attending this meeting and want to remind everyone of our rules of engagement, to please be respectful while others are speaking, and above all, to please refrain from clapping or responding as issues are discussed. Delegations will have 5 minutes to speak and are asked to stay focused on the agenda item. This evening, I wish to read the land acknowledgement. The Shononton people have called these lands home for thousands of years, and more recent, the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee have been sharing the land as one dish, one spoon treaty territory. We would like to acknowledge the enduring resilience of the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people who call this territory home. There are no proclamations this evening. As I mentioned to you, I would like to propose a change to the order of agenda in order to accommodate Councillor Brunet, as he has another meeting to attend on behalf of the town at 6:30 p.m. if our discussion permits it. So I would like to move up item 11 listed under the agenda as recommendations from standing committees which would make them item number 5. All in favor? Your pleasure on the motion. Those in favor, none opposed, the motion is carried. I would first like to mention, for the benefit of the gallery, that the first item that we're going to deal with is Planning and Economic Development Committee minutes of May 13th, 2019. In doing so, the vote that will be taken in a little while is related to the technical elements of the Planning Act, whether it's the provincial policy, regional policy, or local policy. In doing so, Council will have made a judgment for or against the way in which, the completeness with which the planning staff have addressed those three levels of policy. Notwithstanding that, the issues that you have that have a direct relationship to the quality of life in your community and which have been dealt with since the very first meeting and will continue to be dealt with by planning staff, both until this project is completed, if it is supported, and any adjustments that may be made along the way. Planning staff will continue to carry out their duty on behalf of the council and yourselves to negotiate with the developers in every way they can. And I encourage you to continue to be part of that process and to make your needs and your expectations known. So I will now ask Mr. Chairman, Councillor McPherson, do you have any comments to make on the Planning and Economic Development Committee minutes of May 13th, 2019? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only comments I would make is that we had a very, very full agenda that evening with several presentations, as well as two very key developments in Vineland that brought out a very full house. So we've got certainly a passionate community out there. We know that, and when there is something happening in and around their neighborhood, they want to be heard. So, you know, I think we had a very good discussion. We had many speakers come to the podium that evening to speak for and against these two developments, and there was certainly staff in attendance to answer the questions that came up that evening. So, you know, after all was said and done, I think we addressed what was brought before us, and a decision was made. So that would be all the comments I would have, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I will ask you on the matter of item 5.1 at the moment, Planning and Economic Development Committee minutes of May 13th, 2019. Any further comments? I don't see any other names. Your pleasure on the motion. All those in favor? None opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. Councillor Brunet, you may excuse yourself. Thank you. Let us move then to okay. Item 11 the next item then, let's look at the General Business and Finance Committee minutes of May 6, 2019, and I'll ask Councillor Timmers, as chair, do you have any comments to make on those minutes? Thank you very much, Councillor.
Are you pointing at me?
We're not.
And Councillor Brunet is not here, but he already advised me that he had nothing to add. So the clerk has asked that we deal with all of these General Business and Finance Committee, Community Services and Infrastructure, Planning and Economic Development in one motion. And I have a motion moved by Councillor McPherson, seconded by Councillor Mikulik. Approve the following recommendations from standing committees: General Business and Finance Committee minutes of May 6, 2019, Community Services and Infrastructure Committee minutes of May 8, 2019, Planning and Economic Development Committee minutes of May 13, 2019. And I'll ask you again your pleasure on the motion. None opposed, the motion is carried. All right, thank you. Now we go back to the agenda as it was circulated. And we go to item number 6. We have 3 presentations this evening. So where it says presentations, it is now item number 6. And please note that presentations may speak for a maximum of 10 minutes. It's improved for above 5 minutes to what we heard earlier, but it's 10 minutes. And our first presentation will be provided by Doug Meffin, the Deputy Leader of Grimsby Auxiliary Marine Rescue Unit, better known to us as GAMRU. I noticed that Doug doesn't have wet pants tonight, so this is good. It seems like they're getting the water situation under control. Thank you very much for coming, Doug.
Thank you, Your Worship, and to all of you, thank you as well, councillors. It's a privilege. I will be brief tonight. I think, hang on a second. Down? Okay.
What you're going to do is
Yeah,
just,
oh, there we go. Thank you. You're good.
Okay.
Thank you. And thank you to Julie for making this happen. The last time I spoke to this room, I began with an apology. I apologize for not being here before to tell you about your community marine rescue organization. And I left with the promise that I would come back and keep you up to date regularly, and I'm here tonight to fulfill that promise. Many of you were surprised to learn at the time that GAMRU's South Shore Search and Rescue is a totally community-based, all-volunteer search and rescue organization who only has one job. Our only job is to save lives. We will protect property when we can, but our first job is to save lives, and we've been at it for about 30 years. We are part of what is called the Canadian Coast Guard Auxiliary. It's an umbrella group, if you will, for volunteer organizations like us that set the standards for what we do, our training, our preparation, our equipment, and they are a liaison to the Canadian Coast Guard. In their parlance, we are a community unit, which means that we're owned by you, the community. For the record, we're an Ontario not-for-profit corporation and a registered charity. It surprises many people to learn that all marine search and rescue in Canada is the domain of something called the Joint Rescue Coordination Centre, which is an odd federal beast, which is part Coast Guard, part military, that works extraordinarily well. And our nearest Joint Rescue Coordination Centre is just up Highway 401 at CFB Trenton, and they dispatch us. They are our guardians, they are our masters. They dispatch us to rescue missions wherever they may be in Lake Ontario, and we can't undertake a rescue mission without their blessing, without their direction. They can send us out independently. They can send us out in cooperation with other agencies, RCMP, Coast Guard, local police in some cases, and they are the 50,000-foot view of where the assets are, where the people are, where the training is, and where the problems are. This always raises eyebrows for many people who haven't heard this before, but we get no government funding. Not federal, not provincial, not municipal. And of course, rescue services are free for mariners, although believe me, there are times we would like to charge them for some of the things they do that get themselves in trouble. We are paid a per hour fee while we're on one of those approved rescue missions from the Joint Rescue Coordination Centre, and that fee covers roughly the cost of operating the boats for that period of time. The rest of our funding, we must raise ourselves. That's funding for fuel, maintenance, equipment renewal, training, safety gear, everything that we need. And members actually pay to put themselves in harm's way. I often get asked, who are the people of GAMRU's South Shore Search and Rescue? And I say, we're you. we are a reflection of your community. There are about 36 active members at the moment, and they're united by two things. One is a commitment to public service, and the second is a commitment to train around the calendar, year-round, on all of the things you'd expect to find. Seamanship, boat handling, radio, first aid, navigation, all of the things that you'd expect to find in a well-rounded emergency services group. And that training goes on all year round. On the water, this time of year, we'll be out tomorrow night, and in classroom during the daytime, or during the off-season. In addition, 4 crews of 5 or 6 individuals are on 24-hour standby in the boating season. We carry pagers and a smartphone app that delivers at any time of the day or night, in any weather, we get called out. And it surprises many people to learn that the makeup of who we are is very much like the makeup of the community. We're the cop and the Brock professor. We're the landscaper and the civil servant, the small business person and the nurse, a retired guy and a student. And what's most rewarding for me is that we've attracted and seem to maintain a terrific cohort of great young people who are smart, are dedicated, are hardworking. And I know a lot is said about millennials, but I won't hear anything bad about these people. I think they reflect both well on our future as an organization and on your communities, because they represent your communities so well. To do what we do, you require assets. We have 2 major assets, both our vessels. The red boat on the top is a 34-foot steel-hulled twin diesel, all-purpose, long-distance, long-duration search vessel. It is our workhorse. There is nothing about this boat that is glamorous, but if you have to be out there for 12 hours, this is the boat you want to be on. The boat at the bottom is our fast response boat and our problem child. A couple of years ago, it had a catastrophic hull failure. We've patched it up and put it back on the water, and patched it up again and put it back on the water, and patched it up again. And it is well past its best before date, and we'll talk to you about that in a moment. All of this comes at a cost, of course, and as a working number, absolute minimum, about $35,000 a year for the basic services. That's fuel, that's maintenance, that's insurance, that's the pagers we carry, the basics for operating a small office. And in that budget, there can be no surprises. There's no room for overages. Last year, we spent more than $10,000 chasing problems with the diesel engines in the red boat you saw a moment ago. That's not in the budget. We live on a knife's edge. The money comes primarily from fundraising. On a running basis, about a quarter of it comes from the money we receive for that per hour stipend while we're on the water. The rest of the funds we must raise ourselves, and we do some of the traditional fundraising things that you'll recognize. We have a terrific auction that I hope you'll all participate in November. We do a golf tournament, we have a euchre tournament, we have spaghetti dinners and bucket drives, and all of those things that you'd expect. We've also been fortunate recently to attract some direct donations that have made a fundamental difference to us. For example, last year, something called the Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation, the Firehouse Subs restaurant chain, $27,000 donation that helped us completely re-equip the boats with all of the medical stuff. Trauma kits, backboards, lighting, all of that. Another donation from the St. Catharines Game and Fish, completely outfitted the red boat with brand new electronics and navigation stuff. It's become fundamental to what we do, and we couldn't exist without it. Numbers always count, and last year was the busiest in our history at 38 rescue missions. And we say it was everything from the mundane to the dramatic. At the mundane level, there were false alarms, there were disabled boats, and people ran out of fuel. At the dramatic end, upside down boats, capsized boats, people in the water, missing people, and all of the emergencies that you expect to find on the water. To put that in some perspective, in the past 3 years have been the busiest in our history. We've done 100 rescue missions. In the decade prior to that, we did 181. So 181 in 10 years, 103 years. The trend is up. all of which requires commitment, obviously, and the commitment of our people is extraordinary. Obviously, classroom training and on the water training. There's a day-long multi-agency exercise that'll go on the 28th, I believe, of May on the lake. You'll be able to see the yellow helicopter and the black Hercules aircraft and all of the boats from around the region participating. And of course, we take in new members every year in the fall. In our spare time, we raise funds. Like most organizations, we have challenges. We're no different. Our first big challenge is to replace that orange boat you saw a moment ago. In a perfect world, this is what the replacement might look like. It's another rigid hull inflatable design built in Victoria. Terrific boat with a terrific price tag. It's not something we've undertaken lightly, and so we've committed time to it. And because we fundraise for virtually everything we do, this campaign is aimed entirely at the corporate and business community, the institutional donors, and government donors. And I'm pleased to say we're making some progress. We hope by the end of this year to be able to place the order for a new boat for next year. Second big challenge is that our funding model is broken. You can no longer fund a frontline emergency service selling snow cones. It's not possible. We can't do that anymore. Those of you who are involved in community charities, and I'm sure you are, know that the competition is enormous. There are more and more worthy causes out there with more and more campaigns, and more competition means the level of sophistication goes up in order to participate. At the same time, the generous communities we serve, and this is a generous community, it's a very generous community, the donors are starting to say, enough, we can't. But that doesn't mean our costs are going down, doesn't mean our capital needs are any the less. So our next big challenge is to find a funding model that accommodates that reality. And finally, as you may have seen in the last week or so, the storage facility and small office we keep was, for the third consecutive year, flooded. We can take a hint. It's time to find a new location, and we've started that process. Our sincere thanks to Shannon and to Chief Hudson. We thought we had a possibility that turned out to be possible, but we appreciate their help and their time, and we would appreciate your thoughts on anything that you would point us to that might be a good replacement. That, presumably within the allotted time frame, is a short look at Gamaroo South Shore Search and Rescue, and Your Worship, if there is time, I will accept questions.
Thank you very much, and you did very well. I just got the eye from the clerk, so. All right, council members, questions? Yes, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Doug, for the presentation. I think you mentioned that you are a registered charity.
We are, yes.
Have you looked at the Trillium Foundation at all for direct funding, or through OLG?
Yes, we went to Trillium Foundation early on, and for a technicality, we got disqualified. Their focus tends to be more on programming. This application was for capital, and the two take quite divergent paths. In their case, we didn't qualify because of an insurance claim for the orange boat. We were above their threshold for audit, so now we have to go get audited. So that adds cost in order to be able to go back and apply again. We will apply again, but their focus isn't on the kinds of things we do.
How long ago was it that you applied?
Last year,
Last year.
ahead of last deadline.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Your Worship, Councillors.
Oh,
thank
I'm
you.
sorry, Councillor Reimer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Through you to Doug. In one of the first pages, Doug, that you were talking here, you say from Hamilton to Port Weller, this is the only dedicated marine search and rescue organization. What happens around the rest of the lake? Are there organizations like yourselves, or is it like, does the Coast Guard do anything in Lake Ontario, or how is that all divided up?
The long version of this presentation includes that. There is another volunteer organization in Hamilton. There's one at Trafalgar Oakville. And of course, there's a Canadian Coast Guard base at Port Weller. And the nature of what we do is we can get sent anywhere. So Port Weller can get sent to Toronto, we can get sent to Port Weller, and Hamilton can get sent to Grimsby. It's the magic and the wonder of that joint rescue coordination system that we can get sent anywhere, and all the holes are filled that way.
Okay. And do you have any communication with those organizations? Like, are they in the same boat? Are they? Sorry, that's a bad
No, it's a good one, thank you.
term there. No,
Thank you.
no pun
That's-
intended.
That's
but-
normally my
yeah,
line.
yeah.
It-
How are they managing?
They're similar, everyone is a little bit different. Hamilton gets municipal support from the town. Trafalgar Oakville gets proceeds from the local marina there that's earmarked to them. I know that in Belleville, the town provides certain assets. It differs where you are and the needs and how elaborate the organization is.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Counselor. All right, that seems to be the end of the questions. You were alluding to funding. What did you have in mind?
We're working on that. We don't know what the model looks like, and I would be loath to prejudice the outcome of that deliberation, but it's likely to be some kind of hybrid between what we're doing now and some support. We would probably start with the region because it's the best alignment for emergency services. We've talked to Ag Region Police Services. They understand our need, and we work with them. And however that deliberation comes out, it will probably be a hybrid.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Methven. We have a second presentation from Carol Frewer, the Executive Director of Community Care of West Niagara. Carol, if you would come forward with Linda O'Donnell. Carol, your presentation, when I looked at the content, you may find that you need additional time. We also have you scheduled to come to speak to the Housing Task Force, and so I hope that between the two that you'll be able to get your message across to us. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having us back. It's been a while since we've had the opportunity, so through the chair, many thanks. On behalf of Community Care of West Niagara, Linda O'Donnell, my colleague, and Mark Dawson, a board member of ours, we'd like to take this opportunity to update you a little bit on some of the goings-on in our agency. What we have here is just some of the demographics of the clients that we serve. We often get asked, how many individuals do you assist on a regular basis? So in a month, we can assist up to 552 unique individuals. They may come to us more than once. They may have a myriad of needs, and it may change month to month. But what we do is we take a point-in-time count, and that's roughly 231 families. One of the things I thought you would be interested in is approximately 180 of those individuals are children. Another interesting point that I'd like to draw your attention to is that about 65% of the people that we serve rely on government assistance to have household income. Oh, she's so fast. We've talked a lot about the housing issue. One of the things that I thought you would be particularly interested in is being aware that the wait time for single individuals is up to 12 years. And so we're hoping that through some of the work that will come forwards, that we'll be able to reduce that. We've also seen a rise in seniors who come to us for assistance. They present to us with complicated needs. They have meager fixed incomes, and they also face some transportation barriers, not only through public transport, which with ULink certainly has alleviated some of the issues, but also some activity limitations, which I'll get into as we move along. These seniors are also often helping adult children get on their feet for whatever reasons or whatever challenges that they are facing. So they're not empty nesters, and their household costs are quite expensive. This is a representation of some of the services one individual can access when they come to see us. Our clients are the center of who we are and why we are who we are and why we do what we do. They can ask for one plea of help in a specific area, or one client could go through this whole web. It's a service web. It identifies some of the partners that we link into, because we're not specialists in all of the areas. This is just a thumbnail sketch of some of the services that we provide. Since 2015, we have diversified our program offerings from 9, which were offered in-house, to just about 30. And a few of the guiding principles that we have when we decide if we're going to introduce a new program is, if we're specialists in the area, we deliver the service. If it is the domain of another specialist, we offer co-location, because we want our clients to have access to it, but not necessarily have to travel out of community in order to receive it, and also to help our agencies who also may have some sustainability issues access people that they need to help. If there's a gap, we identify how is it that we can offer it and who do we need to talk to in order to do that. We make every effort to ensure that we don't duplicate services, because then we're working at cross purposes with our community, and we're at the disservice of the clients that we're trying to serve. I don't expect you to digest all these numbers, but people do ask us, they love data. So we track individuals and we track households. Some of the services are very specific to the individual in a household, and some of our programs benefit the entire household. So this is just a general representation. What I would like to do is just draw your attention to where the gray boxes take your eye, and you'll see that somewhere in the neighborhood of 2015 is when we really started to climb with our service diversification. Part of that had to do with the introduction of the expansion of our warehouse facility. And also the community, in doing some consultation, we were able to identify those gaps, and people were coming to us wanting to do some pretty robust partnership opportunities. In 2019, we see that we're going to continue offering more programs. One that's come on side is the Registered Disability Savings Program. We are trying to educate our clients. We're trying to connect them with knowledge brokers in that area so that we can help them find a different way to move forwards in their lives, and education, knowledge, literacy is obviously paramount. We introduced a formalized Easter Hampers program this year, and we also offer social programming for youth living with learning disabilities. We're hoping to introduce that in the fall of 2019 in partnership with the Learning Disabilities Association. By virtue of our name being a food bank, some people think that we're one-dimensional. This particular slide just gives you an idea that there's 3 focal areas that all of these programs can probably fall into. You have your food focused, you have skill building, and social services. Again, we have our fingers in all of those pies, but we're not the primary specialist in all of those areas. Now, there's 2 strategic opportunities for us to grow that lend itself to that particular slide, and I'll get to that in a few minutes. We like to think ourselves as being a little engine that can. You may recognize this. I came to a council presentation, saw it, thought it was brilliant because it's Lincoln specific. We have a lot of Niagara data, but that doesn't necessarily inform what is best for us here in Lincoln. And I just wanted to provide a few points of interest. If you go to the little house where it says 1 in 6 families spend over 30% of their income, 100% of the clients that we serve, everybody that we see, spends over 30% of their household income, most of them over 50%, some of them 70%. In terms of education, with the Village of 100 here, I just wanted to give you a comparative. In 2016, our adult clients We had 33% of them had less than high school education. And in 2018, that's actually dropped to 30%. So hopefully, we're seeing more people get that secondary diploma and move forwards. Education and literacy, as you know, are gateways out of poverty. And we just want to do everything that we can to help make that happen, again, without crossing that border of not being the knowledge broker. I think the next thing I want to do is just take a deeper dive. You might find this a little bit interesting. Is from the Village of 100, we took a deeper peer data-wise into what is happening in Lincoln. Community Care of West Niagara commissioned a gentleman by the name of Richard Lau to help us produce these. And so we know the population of Lincoln, but what we did is we took a little bit deeper look at what is the composition of those Lincoln residents. 36% of our clients are under 19 years of age. So this just gives you an idea of what it looks like vis-a-vis what's happening in Lincoln. In terms of single-parent families, 28% of our families are lone parent families. The majority of them are female-led. So that informs how we do our programming and may inform what you would like to do as you do your programming and different community planning initiatives. In terms of our seniors, what we're finding is the no money area, so 7.6%, 7.4% of our seniors live in low income. We're finding that there's a senior surge. So over the next 3 to 5 years, that is going to continue. And the clients that we see, we've actually increased the number of seniors that we see by 60%. So that is going to impact our service delivery and what that's going to look like in terms of our priorities upstream.
You're doing pretty well.
Yep.
As you get to the next piece, could you pick the high points and then we'll pick up some of the other dialogue in the questions.
Okay, no problem. We'll just move to Beamsville. This is a very specific demographic of what's happening in Beamsville. I've also created one for Vineland as well as rural Lincoln. And we can spend time at a different point if you'd like to see what that looks like a little more closely. In terms of activity limitations, I understand that Councillor Rajima is on the Joint Access Advisory Committee. I thought you might be interested in knowing what's happening in our community around activity limitations, because that will also affect how we do our programming. As our building is not currently accessible, I have a vested interest in that and thought that I would take a look at not only what is our client base looking like, but also what is going to be happening to the residents of Lincoln in the coming years. So accessibility is not just about physical accessibility, it's a number of different types of activity limitations. So we'll just press, if you can just press to foodrescue.ca. That would be one of the strategic opportunities that we could look at in the future, is how is it that we can benefit our community and capitalize on the agricultural bounty that we have in our area. We've been able to rescue thousands of pounds from being lost to landfill. Community residents here in Lincoln have been able to benefit by about 6,000 pounds in the first 4 months, and we're probably pushing 20,000 pounds now. We're also helping agencies throughout Niagara. One of the ways we want to help our clients stay in their homes and to be good tenants is to learn what that looks like. We are a regional partner with RentSmart. And that's an Ontario-based program. If there's ways that you can see as the town of Lincoln, you would like to partner in this area, we would certainly like to reach more tenants. We would also like to reach the landlords to find out how we can help each other with a tremendous community need. And finally, another strategic area is around the continuum of care for our clients. We know that our clients come into us for food, but that's just the transaction of the conversation. We are an essential part of their care plan, and we have been in discussion with HealthLinks in terms of what that will look like. This is just the form. This is page 2, the More About Me section. And we're trying to figure out how is it that we can make sure that our clients who have higher and more complex needs can access the services that they require without going to Hamilton or to St. Catharines, because they simply won't. So we just wanted to give you an update, let you know how busy we were. Hopefully we're going in a direction you feel is of benefit to your community, our community, and we're here at the pleasure if you have any questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Carol, Linda, Mark, for coming this evening. Councillors, questions? Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to Carol and Linda and Mark. Certainly a fantastic service within the community and one that's obviously very needed. My question would be maybe what you're seeing, and I'm assuming you're seeing growth in the number of people that are coming. And my question is more, who's coming? And is it, you mentioned seniors, you also mentioned under 19, but, is it new people to Lincoln? Is it, people that have been here years and years and now have just, not been able to keep up? As we all know, the cost of living here, completely out of our control, continues to escalate from a housing standpoint. And so what are you seeing for, maybe some of the new people that are showing up?
Well, what we're finding is because housing is so tight, there isn't a huge growth and decline, about 5 to 8% a year, simply because there's nowhere for them to move to. So the composition of our individuals may change. Our younger kids are getting older. What we're finding is our nuclear families are actually becoming lone parent families because of the strain of their situations. And the older adult population is definitely on the rise. So that would be the crux of it. There's a lot of hidden poverty because we have a number of families who are actually living together. So that's how they are handling it as well. We have individuals who are couch surfing, and a lot of undisclosed, apartments in people's homes. So some of that data, and I'm sure Elizabeth Zimmerman has talked about it as well, is just around how do you obtain data that is unfortunately invisible to the traffic coming in. When we ask people what their issues are and we have them register, we're very cognizant of the fact that they will not feel comfortable disclosing all the information at that time. So as they talk more about their situation, we can get it. So what we're trying to do is keep our young people out of the cycle as much as possible too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and through you, Madam Mayor, so are you getting the support you need from the community? There's lots of things that happen, and you folks are very resourceful and very creative in how you support those that need to be supported. But are you getting what you need through the Lions Club and through your various fundraisers and the food drive and things like that? Is that working for you?
Our community is very supportive of us, and if we ask, we do receive the support. What we're finding is going from 9 programs to 30 programs and increasing our food diversity by about 30%. Draws in terms of, like a gentleman before me says, the community is feeling a little bit taxed because there's so many worthy causes. Mm-hmm. and it does create a climate of competition. What we try to do best is just tell our story, and hopefully we'll find people who really align with what it is our cause is and help us out. We're also trying to position ourselves in such a way that we're more than one step ahead of the individuals that we serve. So looking at how do we invest in ourselves? How do we connect with individuals who have social responsibility policies within their corporate fiber? Can we work with Niagara Community Foundation in terms of having our own endowment program so that we can be responsible stewards of our own future as well? So we're double tracking. And the community's been fantastic to us, and we want to continue that. We're just trying to find different ways to meet those needs.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Timmers.
Thank you, Mary Easton. Thank you, Carol and Linda and Mark, for coming out tonight. The data that you broke down from the Lincoln's Village of 100 is fantastic. That's the kind of thing we want to see. I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of our communities as well, the rural areas in Vineland. That's the kind of numbers that we're looking for to really get a grasp. I was wondering about the food rescue. Explain to me how that works in town. Like I followed it. I went to the big kickoff. Like, how is it actually working in Lincoln? Like, who is collecting it? Where does it go? I just need to understand how it works.
Well, I'll let Linda talk about it because
Okay.
she's the expert,
Right.
but it's going well. There's always opportunity for more.
Thank you.
Sorry, I wasn't expecting to speak. Basically, Food Rescue is an online platform. Second Harvest, we're a partner agency with them. They do this on a very large scale. We've tried to bring it down to very grassroots so that small amounts of food that would normally be thrown in the garbage can be donated on the online platform, and we vet the social service agencies to make sure they do have safe food handling and they're health inspected and they have a true food program, and they are a true charitable agency. So when they put a donation up, it goes to anybody in the radius that's willing to go to that location and pick it up. So the agency decides how far they want to travel, and it makes it a little easier on the actual people donating. So right in this immediate area, I mean, we have Sobeys, we have No Frills, we have, Superstore in Grimsby, like different, so it depends. Tim Hortons is a huge one. We have a very large, I have a very large radius because being the coordinator for the area, I want to see what's going on, so I get rescue notifications from everywhere from Fort Erie to Oakville, actually. So the people that are coming, like we have some standing recurring donations with several agencies, for instance, with Tim Hortons. So I know we pick up one day for our clients. And this is just food at the end of the day. When they have to take it off the shelves, they would normally throw it out because they have to recook in the morning. So they throw it in the freezer, they bag it, we pick it up the next day. So we get one. I know 2 agencies in St. Catharines are coming to pick up 2 other times. And then on the weekends from one of the other locations, the Smithville Community Care is picking. So we have over 35 agencies. We're really trying to hit schools and children and with nutritional programs and stuff to join in. I've just recently signed up about 6 schools in the last few weeks. So yeah, it's going great. Just the donor part is where we always could use help because of course everybody wants free food as an agency to save money to put towards the programs. But we're looking for connections and helping with the donors and the farmers and things like that to get the word out.
Yeah, I was just curious how it was going. Like by the amount of food that you've showed, it's obviously going well. And as Carol, you said, the food is just a conversation. It's a step in the door. It's not all about the food. It's about the education, the literacy piece, the breaking the cycle. So I look forward to having you present to our housing task force and working with you and gathering more data and getting your expertise on that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Could you just turn yours off? Councillor Pachariva.
Yeah, thanks through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much for coming this evening, and thank you for providing these rather stark statistics. it's a sobering look at our town, and like Councillor Timmer said, look forward to seeing the breakdowns of the rural and Vineland. Having participated in the food drive the last number of years and seeing the amount of non-perishables that come in, but that tipping point between perishables and non-perishables and the nutritional value that they provide, how are you making out in that avenue? Does the food share help with that, or just curious, because that seems to be, I don't want to say what it seems to be because you're the expert, Carol, so you tell me what it is. I don't want to propose or suppose what it might be.
We have seen a shift in terms of the composition of foods that are being donated to us, partly through the Food Rescue Initiative, but truthfully, we have been doing our best to communicate to our food donors what it is that we need and why we need it, and we want as many healthy residents in our community, regardless of what their income is. So the communication campaign for the past 4 or 5 years has been about diversifying, and yes, we need shelf-stable product, but we also need perishables. And since 2015, we have seen a 28% increase in perishables coming through our doors. And we have a number of partners who want specifically to help us with the perishable piece. We've received 2 grants that we're just waiting to roll out on. We've been talking to a local grocer in terms of partnership to do a snack program specifically for kids over the next 4 months. And it has to be perishable and protein-rich products.
Okay. And through Madam Mayor, if I may, another one. I had the pleasure this morning to attend the ribbon cutting at the Links for Greater Niagara and St. Catharines and the community gardens on behalf of Wise Guys, because we were a funder like we were for the van this year for community care. Any aspirations to do something like that? Like it was eye-opening to go there and to look at. You know, Councillor Timmers again said, you know, it's breaking that cycle. So it's teaching the younger ones how to do things. Like I thought it was really, really cool. They had a garden bed that said salsa garden. So everything that you needed to make salsa was in that garden. So then it's picked, it's harvested, it's canned, and it comes full circle. And talking to Mr. Kirkopoulos on my travels today, saying, you know, this is something that if we're not doing, we need to do. And just your thoughts on that, Carol, if you may.
I'm really glad to say that we're already doing it.
Okay.
A number of years ago, Community Care of West Niagara had a partnership with Great Lakes and had a community garden there. And last year was our first year in sort of resurrecting the fallow field, and I think Mayor Easton came and turned over the soil. And we do this in partnership with Employment Help Center, so I have to be very clear. Again, we're not the experts in this, and we are partnering with them. We leverage some grant dollars through being an affiliate or a member agency of the Ontario Association of Food Banks. So our client families benefit directly from that. The majority of the clients who work the garden at Great Lakes are Beamsville residents. 65% of the clients that we serve do live in Beamsville because the majority of the affordable housing is in this area. There are other community gardens that the West Niagara Garden Collective do undertake, and that's with Erin Reisling with the Employment Help Center. There are opportunities. I think we also did talk, I think it was with Shannon last year, because we really did want to expand and see if there was any town property that would be appropriate, or whether we had some preliminary conversations with Beamsville District Secondary School a few years ago. So we're with you on that. We do offer workshops and learning opportunities for the residents who are participating in the Community Garden Initiative, because we do want to teach them what it looks like, what it feels like, what it smells like to have healthy food that's picked, and that they've grown.
Thank you very much, Counselor. Thank you, counselors. Again, thank you very much. We could go on and on. I mean, clearly, there's a major gap between housing that we're approving, housing that people can afford, and where people are living. I think it's quite shocking, really. I wasn't aware that that number was a 12-year wait. It's worse than the region as a whole. I'm happy to say, though, that we're hopefully on the track to finding some solutions that are relevant. These slides that you have on page 3, where you were outlining the town of Beamsville, the Vineland picture doesn't look much better, I understand, in terms of early development indicators for children. I'm extremely concerned about that, and I'm looking forward to you coming to the task force to provide us with more information, because these levels of poverty, if we don't get them under control, will begin to make a major statement about our community, and it doesn't need to happen. We need to be more aware of what's going on. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Linda, for your presentation as well.
Thank you very much for your time. I just one comment and then I'll get out of Dodge. Is these community profiles, I think it's great for us to know what we're doing as an agency, but these profiles actually tell our agency how we're doing in relationship to the community. And that, I think, was the impetus, is that if we're doing well, that's great, but if we need to do more work, where do we need to do more work? Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, council members, we move on now to our third presentation. And I'd like to call on Steve Katzman. Steve, if you wouldn't mind coming forward. Steve is the Chief Revenue and Marketing Officer. And Aaron Edwards, also, hello Aaron, I don't know that we've met, maybe. Director of Planning for the 2021 Canada Games Host Society.
Turning the mic on.
Councillors, you have a copy of the presentation as well in your package. Welcome, both of you, and we heard the big story last week again. It's getting a little more exciting every month. Please go ahead. You have 10 minutes, Steve.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you again for your participation last week at Region. And thank you, council and staff, very much for having us. We're incredibly excited to be here. We're loving and welcoming the opportunity to be able to go around Niagara and let everybody know what's happening with the 2021 Canada Games, which will be happening in the summer of 2021. I think the best thing to probably do is give you a little bit of background on the Canada Games. Started in 1967 as part of our centennial. The games were intended to be as much about sport as culture. So since 1967, wherever the games are held, winter, summer, doesn't matter, there is always a celebration of not only athletics, but culture as well. And that is something that our games is going to not only take very seriously, but actually try and ramp up to another level. They are held every 2 years, the games, winter, summer, alternating. And we were just in Red Deer, Alberta for the 2019 games in Alberta. And the summer games prior to that was in Winnipeg in 2017. In 2021, this will be the third time Ontario has hosted the games. The previous sites were Thunder Bay and London. And I can tell you unequivocally that this will be the last time that Niagara hosts the games, because for the simple fact that when it does move back to Ontario, there will indefinitely be other communities that will want to participate, like Kitchener-Waterloo and Ottawa that we beat out for the bid. I should also tell you that one fun fact is that 60% of all Canadian Olympians that medal got their start in the Canada Games. So the Canada Games are really seen as they're a little bit younger than the Olympics, and they're seen almost as a developmental games for athletes wanting to sort of make that next step to the Olympics. As I said, they take place on August 2021. They start on the 6th, they end on the 21st. There will be 18 sports in competition that will take place throughout Niagara. There will be many, many more cultural events that Aaron will get into some detail on throughout the municipalities and the Niagara region as well. There will be 5,000 athletic and athletic-related games participants. And to pull this games off, we are going to need approximately 4,000 volunteers. So spread the word. Anyway, I'll come back and talk to you about that, but Aaron.
This button here. Great. Yeah, as Steve said, we have 18 sports competing at venues across Niagara. So we're, we obviously in the bid phase, we had a number of communities and venues identified to host sporting events. And as we move into the operational phase and do our business planning, we're getting those details firmed up. So we're pleased to say that we've got venues planned across Niagara, and a little different, than the Olympics, where you have an entire Paralympics event. At the Canada Games, the para-athletes are integrated with the regular competition. So para-athletes will be competing in athletics and in swimming and in sailing. And in addition to that, another unique component of the Canada Games is we have 2 sports, athletics and swimming, that will provide opportunities for Special Olympic athletes. And recently, last month, we had the announcement of the inclusion of box lacrosse as a pilot program for the Canada Games. So this is a new sport in the games. We're really pleased to be the first games to host lacrosse. And it's identified as an important opportunity for Indigenous inclusion. And so we'll be taking advantage of that to integrate our Indigenous communities. One of the things Steve mentioned, again, is we've got the number 4,000 in our mind for volunteers. These are really, Canada Games are unique in that they're a volunteer-led game. So in order to pull this off, we will have a small staff. I think we'll number around 70 once we get to the year 2021 in August. But we will be supported by a number of volunteers that will start coming on as early as September and will help us lead the planning and preparation for the games. So they'll take the business plan that we've got and some of the drill down plans in each functional area, and they'll help us apply them to each venues. They'll guide us as we, work in the region and help us take advantage of some of the region's attributes. So those volunteers, we call them leadership volunteers, and they will number 300 plus. So they'll be with us starting in September, and we'll ramp up slowly. And then we'll have games time volunteers, I call them the foot soldiers, that will be the ones that the people who are participating in the games and spectating will see every day. And they'll be the people that welcome the buses, that, drive the VIPs around, that take the tickets at the venues, pick up the garbage, that sort of thing. And they're the ones that will really support us during those 2 weeks that the games are on.
So you can see the tagline in front of you of our games. I want to tell you how we got to this point. First of all, one of the things that we have endeavored to have happen here is inclusion. We want all 12 municipalities involved. All 12 municipalities in the region will have event programming of some kind in their municipalities. And as I stated before, the tagline once and for all represents the fact that the games will only essentially come here once. And for all connotates the inclusion for all of Niagara. And it's not just all of Niagara, it's for people that want to participate as a volunteer, that want to participate in the athletics, want to participate in the cultural programming. There really is something in it for everybody. And we think we have a fantastic opportunity, quite honestly, maybe the greatest opportunity for sure in my lifetime, and I've been a Niagara kid my entire life. this may be, probably will be, the greatest opportunity that we have to unify our region and bring our region together in a way that's never, ever happened before. We've already seen it. There's been a lot of naysayers. I'm sure you've read the news. We have a $100 million infrastructure project that is making its way through local councils, very well, I might add, and has participation from the federal and provincial governments as well. And, when we started this project, people said, it's Niagara, you can't do it, it'll never happen. And we got to the bid phase, and people said, yeah, well, that's good, but you know what, it's never gonna happen, it's Niagara, you guys are too fractured. And we put the bid together, and we actually made it into the final four. And then they said, well, that's great, good for you, but you're not gonna get it. And of course, we won the bid. So the participation, the cooperation, the unification that we've already seen among councils, among the region, has been quite honestly unprecedented. So we're very excited on the path moving forward. Once and for all is our tagline, and shortly you'll be seeing our new branding and our new logo, that sort of thing coming out after.
Steve referenced the cultural programs, and as Canada Games is the athletics and is an athletics and cultural event and festival, it provides opportunities for people, to be introduced to some sports maybe they hadn't seen, be introduced to some future Olympians, and also to be touched in ways by the cultural programming. So there's another number of opportunities for that. One is our opening and closing ceremonies. So opening will be 6th of August, and it will be at the Meridian Center in St. Catharines, and our closing ceremony will be at Queen Victoria Park in Niagara Falls, so taking full advantage of our really special location here. In addition, we've got the 13 for 13 Cultural Festival, and where throughout the games we'll have a different night assigned to each municipality, and it's that municipality's turn to shine. And why it's 13 for 13, and sorry, the 13th is obviously the region, is we're pairing each municipality up with a province or a territory. So the spectators, the participants, the athletes that come into town will feel like they're at home here in Niagara, because they'll be paired up with the municipality that's supporting them and are behind them all the way. So I'm very pleased that Lincoln's a part of that as well. Now the torch relay. So torch relays, as we all know, are usually tied to a sponsor, so our plans for that are still evolving. There will be a torch relay. At the very least, it will be around the region, and if we have a corporate sponsor who's interested in working with us, we could expand to a provincial torch relay. And leading up to this, to get people excited about it, is the milestone events like the 2-year out event and the 1-year out event. So these are always big events as you lead up to games, to get people's interested and excited about the games and give them more doses of information. And the first one will be Monday, August 5th. And it'll be in conjunction with the Henley Regatta. So we'll be hosting our celebration along with the regatta.
All right, well, you've done pretty well.
Time-wise, good.
Do you have another line, Steve?
No, that's it. We really want to just, again, as leaders in your community, we just really want to reach out to you and enlist your help to create advocacy for us, to really spread the word. This is going to be a fantastic, transforming event for the Niagara region. And again, as one of the 12 municipalities, you and your community have a real strong role here to play. And we hope that you'll step up. We hope you'll tell your neighbors and your family and really get everyone involved. Things are really going to kick off. We begin this Thursday with our name and design, our mascot launch. It's a massive event we're having at White Oaks, where we have 500 kids from all 4 school boards in Niagara coming out to launch the program. So we're very excited about that, and you'll begin to see things move from there. And we'd be happy to answer any questions if you have.
All right, thank you very much. I guess the mascot's a secret, so I can't say it.
Not really. The press release went out today, Madam Mayor, but thank you. The mascot is a turtle. There are numerous reasons why, not the least of which is the fact that in the Indigenous community, North America is referred to as Turtle Island, and there's a very strong cultural and Indigenous component there that we really wish to accentuate. Plus, we know kids love turtles. No, that's a sidebar, but no. So the kids will name and design the turtle.
And at the other night, Councillor Foster and I heard which province we're matched with, so maybe you'd like to tell the councillors.
On the funding, do you mean the funding?
The cultural festivals.
Sorry, yes. I believe Lincoln has been matched with Newfoundland and Labrador.
Yes.
Again, we've been in discussions with your staff here, and I know there's some people here that have been very actively involved in that. So looking
Great.
forward to that.
Okay, that's wonderful. Councillors, questions? I know that Councillor Patrick is going to talk to us about goosebumps pretty soon. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you. Somebody's already.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Just one quick question about the volunteer recruitment. So you mentioned that there's going to be 300 leadership volunteers, and then you'll need another 3,700 for the actual events. What's the recruitment drive look like? Do you have any idea of how you're going to plan to recruit that many people, and is there any way we can help?
Well, the answer to that is yes, we love your help. And we've brought our HR volunteer person on board in the past few weeks, so she's just getting her feet wet, and we're really blessed to have a lifelong Niagara resident heading that up and helping us plan that out. So I think we're in the early stages of that, and I think what I'd like to do is just provide further updates as we go along for that. We are building out a website that will be branded, as Steve said, in the coming weeks, and that will be our major tool. And I think what we'll do is we'll reach out to our networks when it does come time to call for those volunteers and ask them to help us source them.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor McPherson.
Through you, Madam Mayor, just to Aaron and Steve, just congratulations on where you're at. And, it's certainly going to be here before we know it. 2 years goes by so quickly. I kind of like the fact that we're teamed up with Newfoundland and Labrador. I think those folks will fit right in right here. So, it's exciting. It also fits pretty nicely with our efforts to, bring on a full tourism strategy and bring folks into Lincoln that are coming into town. I'm sure there's tens of thousands that are going to come in for these games, in addition to the athletes. And, we certainly want to take advantage of those folks being in here and show them what we've got out here in Lincoln. So congratulations on where you're at, and good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you, Councillor McPherson. And to be honest, time didn't really allow us to get into the sports tourism strategy, which has been defined as a massive economic driver for this region in the future. But the legacy that will come out of the infrastructure projects that we're planning will be formidable with respect to really taking a sports tourism strategy to the next level. We said last Thursday at Region, we have the greatest home court advantage that there exists in Canada, with wine country and Niagara Falls as already in place. If we can layer on that effective sports tourism strategy, attract provincial, national, international competitions, we think we can really drive economics in the region.
Thank you. Councillor Pachariva.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Steve and Aaron, thank you very much. I think it's truly exciting, the legacy projects you're going to be bringing to the region. And I just want to say thank you for overcoming all of the inherent bias. And when someone tells me I can't do it, I like to prove them wrong. So thank you for proving everyone wrong. And most of all, thank you for getting box lacrosse in. I think it's long overdue having to drive to Whitby all the time for lacrosse provincials. It's something that down the road we could maybe wrestle back to get here. So thank you.
Yeah, we're very excited. Thank you, Councillor. We're very excited to have lacrosse. I mean, very important to our partnership with the Indigenous community, and also a nod to the fantastic heritage in the Niagara area that lacrosse has had over many, many years. And we've got a few things planned that we'll talk about in the future, but with respect to lacrosse, so we're very much looking forward to that. And I think the OLA in Whitby just might be in play, so good stuff.
Excellent, thank you very much. Certainly, we'll be ready for the not far away entertainment with Newfoundland. We'll have to come up with something really wonderful, but I was quite excited with that choice, so whoever matched us up with Newfoundland and Labrador, it was a great choice. We were really happy about that. It's coming along well, and it's getting exciting, no question about it. It's my understanding that the street banners will be available late in 2020. We'll look forward to doing our part. I would really like to see people coming off the highway in Grimsby and driving straight through and seeing those flags in absolutely every community, and I mean every community. So for us, that's 8 communities. So I hope you're ordering lots of banners. And for us, our legacy, just so that everybody's confirmed on this, our legacy is the warm-up pool. There will probably be some practicing for baseball here up at the Lions Park. But the big legacy project will be going into Jordan, and it's the warm-up pool, and so it'll become part of our rehabilitation of that park, and we certainly look forward to that.
Correct, Mayor, and I believe the U16 softball national championships, there's discussion about that right now as a test event next summer in 2020.
Excellent. Good. Well, through the whole thing, you've always said that every community would be involved, and every community has been. Nobody's been left out. It was always up to us to come to the table. I think everybody rose to the occasion, but more importantly, what we're seeing now is the multiplier effect, and so I think the projections that are coming out in terms of economic development, I'm sure will surpass them. It's great. Thank you very much. Thanks again, Erin.
Staff, for all your work that you're doing. Thank you, councilors. And Madam Mayor, thank you especially for your leadership at the regional level.
Thank you very much. And I would include Councillor Foster, who's just directly behind you in that as well.
Foster, you as well. I'm sorry, sir. You've been focused this way. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
All right, we move on. Thank you for your attention on the presentations, Council. We move on now to item related to approving council minutes, which now I need to go back and check my numbers. But that'll be item number 8 now. Council minutes of April 15th, 2019. I had a quick look at them. Nothing was jumping out at me that I felt we needed to repeat or was that required any further explanation. So I have a motion moved by Councillor Reimer and seconded by Councillor Timmers. Approve the minutes of the following meetings of council minutes of April 15th, 2019. Your pleasure on the motion. All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. At this time, I would ask, are there any declarations of interest? Councillor Timmers.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. I have a declaration for item number 4.1 PD-30-19. Our family business does contract work for the applicant. It is a reiteration at a subsequent council meeting.
Thank you very much. That's noted by the clerk has your documentation, I take it. Thank you very much. The next item, delegations. There are no delegations this evening. There is no correspondence this evening. We are now at item 12, reports of municipal officers. Just a moment, I'm looking for something here. All right, councillors, is there any announcements or any announcements that you want to make, or do you have any, Madam Clerk? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking farther ahead here. Okay, thank you very much. Pardon me. I'm now going to call upon Regional Councillor Foster. I'm sorry, Councillor Foster. My eyes were moving on 2 lines, ahead 2 lines. Please come forward. And thank you very much for your patience this evening. We had a number of areas that we needed to cover.
It's great, actually.
You're planning to take 20 minutes now, aren't you?
About half an hour, 3/4. Mayor Easton and I, last Thursday night, participated in probably one of the weirdest, longest council meetings that I've been involved with in a long time. There was an argument, and maybe this is one of the negatives about regional government. There was an argument about a development charge in Welland that went on for, I think, almost 3 hours, Mayor Easton. It was way overdone, and in the end, the decision was wrong that they made. But anyway, that's beside the point. So just a few things for me tonight. I'll try and keep it quick. Just to let you know, I'm retiring from my day job as of Friday this week. So I'm going to have way more time to even do regional council stuff. So, and I will be hassling each and every one of you on a daily basis. I joined the Public Health Committee as well this past Thursday night at Region. Both the mayor and I weren't on that committee, and I thought it was appropriate that somebody actually go onto it from the town. So I'm now participating in all 4 of the standing committees at the region. What I'm trying to do from it is get a really good broad brush of what's happening within the region and its completeness. It kind of helps me as chair of corporate services to be going that route anyway. There's a lot of discussion about our budget process and the changes that we need going into our 2020 budget cycle. So I'm thinking it's best to at least be seeing firsthand and hearing firsthand what's going on within the committees. Going to one of the comments made earlier about affordable housing and strategies, you know, the needs within the community. This is going to be a big issue for Niagara Region. There's a lot of very passionate councillors on this new regional council that are pushing very hard in that entire area. So there's more to come. I would say the region is just now really getting itself fully into the driver's seat when it comes to processes and policy. So more to come in that particular area over the course of the next little while. Just wanted to shout out to the town. Great job with Economic Development Week, and I actually enjoyed too this past Friday the CKTB Friday morning show. So Paul and Carrie and the team for helping make that come into play. It's always good to go to a brewery first thing in the morning and celebrate our community. You know, from a verbal point of view. Waste collection, I just wanted to briefly mention. I appreciate the feedback that I've got from a few councillors. Things are going relatively well within our municipality at this point with waste collection. But as I've said many times, if you hear or see anything that's of concern, let me know. The region has been doing a really good job of responding, particularly with the new group that has come into our community. And they're willing to make changes relatively quickly in order to overcome problems that are going on. So, you know, please let me know. Talking about our long-winded meeting the other night, what had happened was it was a difference of opinion between a developer and the City of Welland and Niagara Region on development charges. And my opinion on this one, it was clearly the City of Welland screwed up when it came to the development charges that should have been applied for a particular development. What made it so difficult was the fact that this particular developer was developing quote-unquote affordable housing. And so this led to a massive discussion of huge levels on it. Where I say council was wrong, I really don't have an issue with council actually agreeing, okay, City of Welland screwed up. Yes, we need to do with something with the developer. The problem is the region forgave the difference in charges as opposed to granting back monies to make it right. I would say our municipality here has done a really good job over the years of understanding when things should be forgiven versus when things should be charged, and then political decisions are made to make things right. So continue doing that properly. Every once in a while at Niagara Region, I have learned so far there's very parochial decisions made in certain areas. I think both Mayor Easton and I agree the airport has come forward. I believe we both voted against going down the road with airport. I think, yes, I think we both did. Oh, you didn't? Oh, you were in favor? Oh.
Well, just to be clear,
Yep.
I'm not in favor of the presentation that was made.
Correct.
I'm not in favor of us spending a dime based on the traditional ways in which apparently money can be raised. I figure if the 20 things on the list that are supposed to be the lifesaver for the airport haven't come to fruition now, they likely won't. So what I'm looking for is a business plan, a true business plan.
Yeah.
Where you look at the tarmac and you say, what's on this tarmac that has value? And how can that asset bring long-term value in terms of a business model? It's not a charity.
Yep.
And if we're not going that route, you'll soon see me voting no, but that's my position at the moment.
Yeah, I voted no right off the bat with this. I don't think the region needs to be in the airport business. You even take a look at what the federal government is doing within Southern Ontario, and St. Catharines and Welland don't show up at all. So anyway, I have voted against it, and I will be voting against it right throughout the process. And by the way, this came forward back, I believe, last council here, and I think we gave a strong recommendation that this was not an area the region should be involved with. And so anyway, I'm going to continue down the road with that. Speaking of funding, I was at a SWIFT board meeting. I'm the regional representative on the organization called SWIFT, which is the Southwestern Ontario. It's essentially, it's infrastructure that's being put in place for the internet. They're trying to work with the private sector to go and lay fiber into areas within the rural communities that aren't going to get it otherwise, type of thing. And I was at the meeting, but what was interesting is that 2 of the counties are seriously considering opening up their budgets from this year. And this is because of some of the downloading that we're seeing now coming from the provincial government. I have no idea how it's going to be affecting the town of Lincoln. I do know at the regional level, there is a huge hit on finances that are coming our way in the public health sector. I believe the discussion point was $350,000 is already earmarked to be lost out of our budget. So anyway, there's some huge differences of opinion going on in this particular area as well, but just be prepared. In my discussion with senior staff at the region, there's no intention to be opening up any of the taxation for this year, but I did find it interesting that counties had decided they were going to do that, which, as I say, is a huge issue all the way around. Last but not least, just going to mention the NPCA, and it always seems to be a topic of interest at Niagara Region. So I have been on that board since last December, and there's still a lot of work to do yet. I've had a discussion with Mayor Easton, and she suggested I speak to you this evening. It's my intention, or I would like to stay on that board. The general rules within the region is that regional councillor has a first right of refusal to go into that particular position, but to be open and transparent with all of you, I'm just hoping that this council will also support me as I continue on with that. The reason for this is very simple. We still require politicians to be involved with this. A number of the communities had citizen appointees put on at our council meeting this past Thursday night. We're getting close to 50-50 mixture of politicians and private citizens on that committee. So anyway, I think it would be appropriate, but I will leave that for you to think about. And also, I am on the foundation of the NPCA as well. If I didn't mention it last month, Councillor Tom Encina, who has actually just stepped away from being on the board, and I are the two foundation members at this point in time. And the idea is that we're trying to bring some sense of stability to that particular organization as well. So, and that's my report for this evening.
Very good, thank you very much, Councillor. I checked with Madam Clerk. We haven't received any notifications yet from the region. Is that still the case, Madam Clerk? So when that comes, when we receive those instructions and the rules, if you will, that we're to follow, the issue of membership will come forward to council at that time. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? I have Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Foster again for coming to share an update with us. Just some comments around the airport. I also, I was asked to attend on the mayor's behalf a meeting on the airport, and at that meeting were a number of economic development people. There were a number of tourism type people. And there was a very, very good discussion about the value of an airport to a region and what an airport can do for a region. And it was simply put that, from a tourism standpoint, to get to us is many times 2 hours by bus, by car, to get to us. So there was some very good discussion around at least being open to the things that are needed to make the Niagara Airport a tourist or a regular traveler-friendly type of facility. They also went on to talk about the success of the corporate planes and the ridership on those, and I guess it started out as once a day or a couple times a week, and now they're going every day, 2 or 3 or 4 times a day, and on the weekends. So I think I think we need to keep open to the possibilities, especially as they relate to people that would come our way through that airport. And I know there's a ton of work to do. And one of the discussions that we got into that day was, okay, people arrive at the airport, what next? How do you get them from there to here, or from there to Grimsby, and not just run them down to the casino? So, I came away from that thinking that, okay, there was enough information shared there, there was enough people in that room of interest that would say, from a, what does this region need to help it to grow? And if you look at those municipalities or those regions that are expanding, they have an airport. Many of them have an airport. They brought Waterloo, Kitchener-Waterloo into the discussion and places like that. So I'd like to see us continue the conversations, continue the discussion. It's going to happen at the regional level, but to the mayor's point, we need a business plan. We need to see how those folks, could get over into our town, and that we would benefit from a commercial and a, you know, an airport that actually works. So that was just one of my points. The other is Councillor Mikulik and I are hosting a ward meeting next week, and at that meeting, we expect to be discussing King Street Vineland. We expect to be discussing downtown Jordan and the project in downtown Jordan. So, you know, we know where both of those projects are. So just so you know, we're going to share with the residents that come to the ward meeting where we're at with both of those projects and what Councillor Mikulik and I are doing to try to move them along as quickly as we can. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. And I also have Councillor Timmers, if you will.
Good. Thank you for coming out tonight, Councillor Foster. Congratulations on your retirement. I'm glad you waited till this term. But now we can really, reach out to you, and you're sitting on all 4 standing committees, so even better. I was gonna ask about the waste collection, but I had a feeling that things were going better, so I don't think we need to discuss that. Just around the $350,000 lost from public health. I don't know how much discussion you've had around this, or in what way is it going to affect us? Do you have any inclination on that? Will it affect our municipality directly, or is this just region level?
Oh, you're going to do it for me? Thank you. Don't know yet. Single biggest problem with the 10.5-hour meeting the other night is that the whole public health thing got short shrift. Actually, Dr. Hergy was going to make some comments, but it turned into a fiasco after about 11:30. So I will be informing you though once I know. So.
Okay, fair enough. I just didn't
Yeah.
know if you had any kind of information for us. And you touched on the MPCA. That was one of my questions. I don't think I have any other question. I'm not going to talk about the airport because I don't want to drag our meeting out too long. Just to let you know, we did celebrate last week and with our economic development. This week is our Public Works week. So we are celebrating everything Public Works with our Touch a Truck event on Saturday. So you may want to come out and attend that as usual. So thank you, Councillor Foster.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor, with your indulgence, Dr. Hergy did send out a report to regional councillors on May 15th, which I believe I circulated to you. And so the biggest impact would be if there were some changes with public health and emergency services. Within the region, it's not a single entity as it is in some other communities, but they do work very, very closely together. So he had identified changes globally, the change from 35 down to 10 agencies, which is pretty significant. So you could assume that there's going to be an impact, but I think until it's evaluated, we won't know. The funding, though, it's a combination right now of 75% provincial, 25% local, and so that's going to change to 70 and 30, depending on whether you're a large, medium, or small government. So they think the impact is around 375,000, which is pretty significant. Emergency medical services, really, the EMS system that we have in Niagara is so far superior to what a lot of communities are seeing. I think that, and they are tremendously resourceful and have been for a long time. So I think we probably just need to watch and see what happens there. You're probably aware, just from different comments that Councillor Foster and I have made, Wainfleet in particular they are completely absent of family doctors, and it's the EMS that provides the day-to-day service. They actually have a vehicle there, they have personnel there, that personnel go to the local Tim Hortons in the morning. They basically get their marching orders from the community. You need to go and see Mrs. So-and-so, her blood pressure's up. So-and-so just had a baby, you need to go there, you need to go here. And they know who's been in hospital and who's been discharged, and they make sure that diabetics and others that are having difficulty with taking their drugs in a very compliant way, they're right there. And it's avoiding people going to the hospital. The best part of it, in my estimation, is that they have knowledge, they have skills, they have equipment, and they know how to access the system. And so it's quite excellent. So, if we ended up with a change with a bit of a model like that, I think it would be quite positive. Mental health, however, is huge. And there was work that was funded 100% by the LHIN. And so when it becomes the Ontario Health Agency, we're not too sure if it'll be, that's a separate budget from public health, but we could lose that. And that would be worrisome. So I think that's, the points that he made, he was just trying his best to try and keep us on the right track. There's all kinds of issues around hospitals and primary care, so that's what was part of his report, but there was no discussion about any of it, as Councillor Foster said. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary Easton. I did receive that, and you did circulate, and it was a great report. I think I was just looking for any discussion that perhaps went on at the region that we weren't privy to. So, and if I may, Mayor Easton, I just have one other question. The last couple of times that you've come in, the Burgoyne Bridge has always been on the table, and I know that there was a fair amount of money, $3.5 million, put aside for barriers. I don't know, I could be off on that number. I'm just wondering, where are we with that? Is there a timeline? Do you have any updates on that?
The Burgoyne Bridge, yeah, there was $3.5 million set aside by the region to go and do that. There's a variety of work that's going on. That actually was asked at Regional Council when it went on. The earliest we're going to see it is this fall sometime coming into play. That'd be the earliest. There's a number of issues with it that are going on. My guess, probably early next year sometime, so.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor and Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. Congratulations on your pending retirement. Hope to see you more in the neighborhood, ideally. My question is more about some of the governance questions that have come up recently. There was an article in the Standard today, I'm not sure if you had a chance to see it, about the potential of Fort Erie leaving the region and going out on their own. Just wondering if you have any thoughts from a regional perspective on the viability of that or sustainability of it, and if it's been discussed at all.
Well, there's lots of opinions right at the moment about who's going to do what. I really don't have a comment on what people in Fort Erie want to do, so at this point in time. I think, we're very, very fortunate living in the town of Lincoln, and at this point in time, and why I was echoing earlier, the great job that you guys did as a council and as staff on the Economic Development Week and showing the terrific things that are going on. We're a have community and we're growing, okay? Whatever is decided from a governance point of view, Lincoln is going to be right in the middle of things. And we have to be taken seriously. The mayor forces people to take us seriously at the region, as do I. So, and people are listening to us as it's going on, simply because we're doing a lot of the right things. So, but Fort Erie, congratulations to them. They can make themselves a country if they're at it too. So, anyway.
I haven't heard, I saw that as well today, and I haven't, I've certainly heard a number of communities say that they would like to secede, but these comments go on whether or not there's a provincial review.
Well, there's a couple of things too, because today it was announced by the provincial government as well that they're looking for large municipalities across the board to do a 4% cut in their budgets, or going through line by line and reducing by 4%. Number one, where that came from, I'm not sure. And, you know, the Premier's been very generous, laying out some money for people to actually go, or to the communities to do that. But that's a huge thing. I mean, like, you know, we're busy, and like Sandra and I have had many discussions about the budget at the region, and you know, both of us are in complete agreement that, you know, there needs to be some fine tuning of that going on over the next couple of years. Is the region the most efficient place possible? No. Is the town of Lincoln the most efficient place possible? No. Pretty good. In the region, some things they do pretty good. So, you know, the whole thing is that we as politicians have to go and do what it is that we have to do and work with our staffs and make sure that we are as efficient as we can possibly be. I'm going to go back to some comments from Councillor McPherson before Sandra kicks me out. First of all, I'm going to be doing meetings as well this fall. I've talked it over with Mr. Kokopoulos as well. You know, how about, or how appropriately to do that. I will be doing both an East End and a West End meeting. I'm going to be saying probably mid-September, as we're probably going to be nicely into the budget process at that time at the region, or at least the early stages of it. And secondly, with regards to getting ourselves into new lines of business, you know, I'm not saying one way or the other whether or not, you know, airports are good for municipalities or whatever the case may be. And this will be a fun argument for you and I to have over a cocktail some evening. But the problem is that we have an infrastructure deficit within Niagara region that's huge. We are up to the ceiling when it comes to operations budgets. We're already taking 53% of the total budget that's coming out of our tax bills to be paying for that structure and that infrastructure. So I think sooner or later, people are going to justifiably say, what are you guys doing down there? Like, you know, can we afford to be taking on new lines of business that we previously haven't been in? Everybody's spoken loud and clear at this council that intermunicipal transit is something that this council is interested in. So the region happens to be interested in that as well. I happen to be interested in it as well. But, you know, again, are we going to be the direct beneficiaries of this? Probably not. I asked the question, or the question was asked of the mayor of Niagara Falls, like, you know, if the airport is such a good deal, why do you want to get out of this? Like, it seems to us that Niagara Falls would be the single biggest beneficiary of having a new and upgraded airport as it's going on. They have the casinos, they have the money. There was no answer. There was crickets coming back. So again, you know, there's a whole lot of things that have to be thought through with this. So, and I think it's fair that you know, that's an open discussion on all the different things that are going on with it. So, okay.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I see
Okay.
no other questions. Thank you very much, Rob,
thank
for
you.
coming again.
Yeah, no.
Congratulations on your retirement.
Yeah.
I'm very worried now. We'll
It's-
probably be seeing you every day.
I do.
Good heavens.
And by the way, I do have to say, I really truly appreciate coming here and talking to you guys about this. I am, you know, something, we're not going to agree on everything. And if we do, we're all in big trouble. But the simple reality is that I think it's really important to have the open and transparent discussions. And I do appreciate when you guys include me on things that are going on here in the town, because boy, the region's a different place when it comes to people. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Councillors, I have a motion moved by Councillor Mikulik and seconded by Councillor McPherson to receive and file the update from Regional Councillor Foster on May 21st, 2019. Pleasure on the motion. All those in favor? The motion is carried, none opposed. Yes, when Councillor Foster and I start agreeing, it gets a bit scary. All right. So now we're moving on to item 12.2, which is the consideration of item 12.2. It's 12.2 LSL 19, citizen appointments to the Active Transportation Citizen Advisory Committee. We'll discuss confidential Appendix A under the confidential items section of the agenda. However, in the interim, do members of council have any questions or comments regarding the report? There being none, we will, Councillor Pachariva? Very good, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. And I just want to, express my gratitude for this process that we've undertaken this year to the Clerk's Department. I think it's truly outstanding that the councillors that are sitting on the committee interview the potential candidates. To see what they're about, to get their thoughts, to get their interests. We're going to have be reviewing the names of the candidates later on confidentially, but I mean, we've got such a wide range of representation this time that Councillor Russell and myself, along with Ms. Mackay, actually said we should have 9 people on this committee. We should have 2 returning people, and we should have 7 new people, because after doing the interviewing, the scores were very, very close, and we thought, you know what, it's with Councillor Russell and I being non-voting, it's good to have an odd number, voting purposes. Thinking of you, Ms. Kirklow. So, looking forward to having that discussion later, but, we've got a professor from Brock, we've got a former high school teacher, we've got a farmer, we've got, it's the talent of this pool is going to put us on the road, and pardon the pun, to being more active.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Councillor, and we'll have the discussion of the names, and ladies and gentlemen in the gallery, it's only for the purposes that we wouldn't want to reveal names until all of the details are sorted, but they certainly will be made public. There will be no doubt about that. Yes, the process was very robust this year, and I think that it was, in its own way, an arm's length approach, which allowed those members who needed to know to be involved, and for the rest of us to be arm's length, because we do know a lot of people, and we want it to be fair. So thank you very much for that, and for the effort that went into the development of the questions as well to create that spreadsheet. So thank you all very much. And actually, I believe, Madam Clerk, that this is the end of the process. This is the last committee. Excellent. All right. Well, we'll look forward to that in a little while. And now we'll move on to consider any notice of motion. There being none, we'll move on to the next motion, which is related to council information packages, items 14.1 through 14.5. And as is noted, these information packages can be found online for your review, so you've had this for a couple of weeks. And are there any questions that members of the council have? I'll read the motion, and then we'll see what questions you may or may not have. I have a motion moved by Councillor Pachariva. Deputy Mayor, would you mind signing this since Councillor Renee's not here? Thank you very much. I have a motion moved by Councillor Pachariva, seconded by Councillor Russell. Receive and file the following council information packages. Council information package from April 12th, from April 18th, from April 26th, from May 3rd, and from May 10th. So I'll ask again, does anyone have any questions on these packages? There being none, your pleasure on the motion. All those in favor? None opposed. The motion is carried. And now we are considering a motion to receive and file correspondence, and there is no correspondence this evening to consider. We move on now to a motion to consider confidential items. And we have the one confidential item that we introduced earlier. So I will read this motion. And the motion is moved by Councillor Pachariva, seconded by Councillor Russell. Under Section 239 of the Municipal Act, notice is hereby given that committee adjourn to closed session in order to address item 16.1 on the agenda. Madam Clerk, am I correct with the reordering that we did earlier? 16.1, regarding personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees as it pertains to Report LS-11-19, citizen appointments to the Active Transportation Citizen Advisory Committee. Your pleasure on the motion. Those in favor? None opposed. The motion is carried. Yes. I'm sorry. Those of you who are here now, we're going to be meeting in this room, so we ask that you leave the room while we consider this item that I think everyone knows what we're going to be discussing, which is appropriate. Madam Clerk, or Madam CAO, the staff staff are not required for the rest of the agenda. All right, staff can leave as well. his name in the future. Approve the citizen appointments to the Active Transportation Advisory Committee as outlined in confidential Appendix A of Legislative Services Department Report LS-11-19, and following approval from council, make the recommended names for appointments public. Your pleasure on the motion? Any opposed? The motion is carried. And now, Madam Clerk advises me that the Clerk's Department will, now that the names have been approved, the Clerk's Department will go and notify each individual, and at that point in time, the names will become public. Thank you, Madam Mayor, or Madam Clerk. All right, now, we move on to bylaws. And we have 13 bylaws this evening. And did I understand you, Councillor McPherson, that you had one that you wanted dealt with separately?
Yeah, I just have a question.
You have a question? Okay, which item, which?
First one up.
First one up, okay. Does anyone else have any questions on any particular bylaws? We'll separate those out. There being none, all right, we'll deal with, okay, Madam Clerk, we're going to deal with number 1. Yes, and then we'll just. Thank you. Okay, he did.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to Chief Hudson. Question is, with regards to the emergency services agreement, is there any changes to the discussion at budget around the shared cost of the agreement? I don't know if I read that West Lincoln has got cold feet or whatever, and has decided to back away from, and I'm wondering how that's going to affect our taxpayers, because if I read it correctly, they will be invoiced for services provided, which I'm not sure how that works, unless we have an emergency. And then do we bear the cost that they should be bearing?
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor. Chief Hudson, I would like to rephrase that question. Is the arrangement that we have with West Lincoln different than the arrangement that we have with Grimsby?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, it is. We have a formalized agreement with the town of Grimsby to formally share the position, but with Township West Lincoln, it's more of a pay-as-you-go type of an arrangement. And it's more than just emergency. It's part of the preparation for emergencies, review of the plan, the annual exercises, that kind of thing that we have in the shared services agreement, a mechanism by which we would recover costs on an hourly basis to recover our costs for providing those services to West Lincoln.
Okay, Councillor, I just wanted to make sure that we were cautious in our question because I didn't know what discussions had taken place with the other two parties, but I understand where you're coming from. So I'm satisfied now that we are all satisfied, there is a difference, and I'm wondering if what we require here is a more comprehensive report. If you might agree with that.
I think to answer my original question, does that then put more cost on us and on Grimsby as a result from what we agreed to at the budget, potentially?
Through you, Madam Mayor, potentially. However, I must say that it was, the costing was a formula that basically went by population. West Lincoln being, fairly low, or lower than Grimsby and Lincoln, so the difference would have to be borne by the the two remaining parties that are involved in this. That being said, part of a big portion of that expense would be the salary dollars for the emergency management coordinator. And there are some gapping dollars in there that we're not paying for the entire top of rate, shall we say. And there would be some savings in terms of some of the travel expenses and things like that by not having to go to, West Lincoln. So there would be some savings there. So I think the net result is there may be a slight increase in what was budgeted for, but I don't think it's really a phenomenal amount. I don't have the exact dollar in front of me, but we can certainly get that to you.
I think it would make sense to look at this, and if there has been a significant change, sounds like there has, we should probably look at the numbers and approve it based on the new information.
I think it's a fair question, Counselor. Madam CAO, Acting CAO, what would you recommend is the best route for this? What are the implications of not approving this bylaw? That's the first question. And then how soon could we have a more comprehensive report?
In regards to there's a bylaw before council tonight. I guess you have a couple options. You could potentially give the bylaw maybe first reading and direct that staff do a follow-up report. This would then allow, if there are any changes to the actual bylaw, that could come back at the next council meeting. Subject to the fire chief's workload, hopefully this is something that he could bring back to a committee in June.
Okay, Counselor, is that satisfactory to you?
That's satisfactory to me.
Anyone else have any comments that they would make on this? All right, let's take item number 1 out of the package, and we'll include that in the first reading, correct, Madam Clerk? And then when we do the second and third readings, we'll leave that one out, with the understanding that a direction be given to staff to bring a more comprehensive report on what we believe are changes to the original agreement. All right? Okay. All right, I have a motion moved by Councillor Pachariva, seconded by Councillor Brunet, that leave be given to introduce bylaw number, just a moment, this is not the one I want, just a second. Okay. All right, I have a motion moved by Councillor Timmers, seconded by Councillor Reimer, that leave be given to approve the following bylaws. 2019-40 bylaw for shared emergency services agreement between Grimsby, West Lincoln, and Wainfleet. 2019-41, a bylaw to adopt the estimates of all sums required and set the rates of taxation for the year 2019. 2019-42, bylaw to appoint a treasurer for the town of Lincoln. 2019-43, a bylaw to exempt certain lands in registered plan number 30M-449 from part lot control pursuant to section 50 of the Planning Act RSO 1990 Cherry Heights. 2019-44, noise control bylaw. 2019-45, amendment to the fees and charges bylaw to include the noise control bylaw. 2019-46, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2019-22, being a bylaw to set rates and charges for the supply of water and rates and charges for the wastewater services in the town of Lincoln to include quarterly manual reading. Your pleasure on the motion.
Madam Mayor, I just want to provide some clarity. So we're going to remove the number 1 bylaw, 2019-40 bylaw for shared emergency services. agreement between Grimsby, West Lincoln, and Wainfleet. We've given it first reading, however, this will not be in the motion going forward in the minutes. And so we will just be approving the bylaws listed as number 2 through to number 13. So I just wanted to give that some clarity.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I'll continue reading as part of the second and third reading. Number 8, 2019-47, Z523, zoning bylaw amendments by North Shore Homes Limited, consultant Better Neighborhoods, Inc. 2019-48, bylaw to authorize the execution of a site plan agreement with Phelps Homes Limited. 2019-49-Z524, zoning bylaw amendment for public uses. 2019-51-Z525, zoning bylaw amendment by Kelly and Benjamin Van Hofen. 2019-50, municipal heritage committee bylaw. 2019-52-Z526, zoning bylaw amendment to remove holding provision for the Cherry Heights extension. So, just to be clear, number 1, 2019-40, received first reading. It's now on hold until we get the additional report. 2019 through to 2019-52-Z526 have now received second and third readings. Your pleasure on the motion. Those in favor? None opposed. The motion is carried. Thank you, Madam Clerk. And now I have a motion moved by Councillor Pachariva and seconded by Councillor Brunet that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 2019-53. Madam Clerk, what is the name of that bylaw? Oh, this is the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held Tuesday, May 21st, being read a first, second, and third time, and that bylaw number 2019-53 be enacted and passed, and that the mayor and clerk sign and seal the said bylaw. Your pleasure on the motion. All those in favor? None opposed. The motion is carried. And a motion moved by Councillor Pachariva and seconded by Councillor Brunet that council on Tuesday, May 21st, 2019, having completed its business as posted and circulated, be adjourned. Thank you.